What's going on YouTube? So since Nissan redesigned the Armada last year, it's been turning heads. And now it's turning even more heads with this new Nismo, the performance model. And we want to know, is this an exciting full-size SUV in a sea of boring options? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so let's start out under the hood. So this Nismo has a Nismo-tuned 3.5-liter twin-turbocharged V6 engine, making 460 horsepower. It's paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission, and our combined fuel economy is 17 mpg.
Now, the base price of the Nismo is around $80,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, this is a real-world 7-day review, so we have quite a lot of impressions to share, as well as show you the performance out on the road. While we're on that test drive, we'll get things like our sound level reading and discuss real-world fuel economy.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood, because as you can probably see right from the start here, there's a lot to talk about with the outside and the inside. Now, like I was saying, there's a lot to talk about, and that starts right up here in the front. Guys, this is bold with a capital B. Absolutely an enormous grille. Nissan really just took a lot of the Nismo elements, which were on like an itty-bitty Nissan Z, and just blew it up to this massive SUV. This gets a lot of attention, let me say. It really turned a lot of heads this week. I'm not sure all of them for the better, but it definitely turned a lot of heads, and more people like this than I thought, although I have to say this is not my personal taste. And over here at the headlights, we have a full LED arrangement, just like all the other Armadas. These are very good LEDs, and we also even have LED fog lights down here at the bottom. Of course, as you can see, we have a lower body kit. This really goes all around the SUV. And this does still have the air suspension, although of course it's not really designed to go off-roading or anything like that, but you can slam it down to give you that most aggressive look. And as we walk around to the back, the very aggressive design continues.
Absolutely. This is definitely a performance-oriented SUV, and as far as design elements, let's break down some of those individual touches. So our spoiler is definitely enlarged as compared to a regular Armada. Our wiper is still integrated underneath, and then as far as the taillights, that's of course going to be a big element of the rear design. They go all the way across the front. You have Armada branding, and these are going to be full LED taillights, as you might expect, with your brake light, your turn signal, that's amber, as well as your LED reverse light. And then dropping down to the lower fascia, that's where everything gets super spicy for the Nismo. Of course, you have your own branding down here. It can tow 8,500 pounds, and it also has a special retuned exhaust, so let's go ahead and take a listen.
Now, the aggressive design continues with the wheels. We've got 22-inch alloys with an exclusive Nismo contrast design. Also exclusive to the Nismo are the red brake calipers, and we have higher performance all-season tires. Got some more Nismo branding up there. The mirrors are going to be blacked out, and they're loaded with all the equipment you expect for the price point, including auto-dimming and power folding.
Now at the side, overall vehicle length is normally around 210 inches, although the Nismo adds about an extra inch, so it's 211 inches in length. And as far as design touches, all of our window surrounds are mostly darkened. We also have this cool red Armada text here on the back and a two-tone roof to really kind of spice up that overall design. We even still retain the roof rails. Now, as far as the safety systems, all of your active safety features are standard on all Armadas, as you might expect. That will even include things like ProPilot 1.1. Furthermore, you can option on things like ProPilot 2.1 for more hands-free driving. But guys, there's a ton going on the inside as well, so let's dive into that in our impressions. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from sound level readings to cargo measurements, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, let's get out of the snow and check out the inside. Here's our key fob, just the typical Nissan key fob. Nothing special about this, but it does have smart entry and remote start, of course. And to get inside, there's no sensor behind the handle, so you just press that button to unlock. Now, checking out the inside, I definitely appreciate that Nissan went the whole way and made special Nismo adjustments to the interior, just like with the exterior. And really that begins with the seats. So you can see right off the bat, these are special seats. So we have a more aggressive sport seat. It has heavier bolstering, which is adjustable, by the way, and you can see that it's a leather and suede combination. We have the red Nismo suede that runs through here and on the bottom as well to kind of help hold you in place. Nismo branding, of course, and lots of stitching detail. One of the other nice things about the seats is they actually retain the massage abilities. Of course, you also have memory seats as well, and let's go ahead and climb inside. Now, we'll also see some special materials throughout the rest of the interior as well. So the armrest is covered in a leatherette with a stitching detail. However, the entire center section of the door trim is all suede with this kind of special cloth design that looks like carbon fiber as well. As we move to the upper dashboard, we have some leatherette up here with the stitching detail, and then more of that suede design all through the center section and some red accents through there. And then you'll see the red accenting even on the armrest. Everything is really nicely put together as well. And now we'll fire it up with the red push button start. Now jumping into the individual details, we'll take a look at the gauge cluster. It's a 12.3 inch digital gauge cluster. And as you can see, nice looking graphics on board. You do have some specific ones for Nismo duty in terms of the color schemes, but it still has all the same functionality, including putting Google Maps in the display itself. Now as we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got a special Nismo design here with the perforated leather on the edges, the double stitching detail, Nismo branding. It really feels nice in the hand. It is going to be power, tilt, and telescoping, and it also has heating abilities. All right, let's take a look at interior storage next. This does not sacrifice anything from the regular Armada, so inside you'll see donuts. You'll see 15 donuts as a matter of fact, which is quite a good performance in our signature donut test, although some rivals are going to be bigger. If I slide this back, you'll see your two cup holders and a wireless phone charging pad, and then you have a full pass-through space. This is really where the majority of your front interior storage will be. The shifter is a small piano key design here. Press the D for drive. You can press again to go into manual mode, and of course we have paddle shifters on the steering wheel. Heading into reverse, here's our 360-degree camera system. As you can see, you get the overhead view as well as the standard view with active trajectory, and of course the camera as well has some additional functionalities that you can do, including the 3D view, and that's what that looks like. You have an electronic parking brake with brake hold on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, and then your buttons over here for the air suspension and your auto start-stop system. Above that, you have some four-wheel drive controls and all your different drive modes, including the sport mode, which you might be utilizing quite a bit in the Nismo version. Now, in the center section, we have climate controls. These are pretty much adjusted, all your main functions at least, with the physical knobs up and down, your fan speeds as well. And then we have heated seats. So that's something to keep in mind. The Nismo is, of course, very expensive, but you can't get ventilated seats with the special seat design that we have on board. Right above the climate controls, we have our volume knob for the audio system. The Nismo comes with the high-end 12-speaker Klipsch audio system, and let's give it a sample. Very nice. This is a really good sounding sound system. We were impressed with it in other versions of the Armada, and it's nice that they included it with the Nismo as well. All right, moving up to the main infotainment system. This side is going to be 14 inches, and it has the latest Nissan infotainment on board. Let me kind of cycle out of that camera there so you can take a look at that. We have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's what's pulled up right now. And then when we go into the actual system itself by hitting the home screen, you can see that it actually has Google Apps built into the system natively, including Google Maps. Overall, the performance is pretty snappy despite the very advanced graphics there, and everything worked well in the week that we had it. Up top here, we've got an auto-dimming mirror. This is also a digital camera rear view mirror, and then your HomeLink remotes are up there. This is also where we can slide back the sunshade for the panoramic sunroof. This is included as a standard feature on the Nismo, and the front panel opens up.
All right, so let's talk about the rear seat area of the Armada. Now, when it comes to this, of course, it is a family 3-row, so you have plenty of practicality as well as the performance. So when we're talking about space, what we're looking at is about 39 inches of legroom, about 38 inches of headroom. Those are going to be good figures, although it's, not necessarily class leading. Things like the Chevy Tahoe and the Ford Expedition might have a little bit more space. But of course, I brought along the official Car Confections ruler, and the reason I do that is so I can get a realistic knee room figure. This seat is adjusted to Drew's 5'8" seating position, and I'm 5'9", and we're looking at 10 inches of knee space. So overall, that's very solid. Also, my feet can slide up underneath of the seat. The seats themselves can slide forward and back a good distance, and they can also recline a good distance to maximize your comfort. I like the fact that we have the same design as the front seats here in the back. You even have Nismo in the headrest, and you also have red seat belts to kind of add that extra touch. Here in the center, we have 2 cup holders, 2 USB ports, and a little storage tray. As far as other features, we have our own zone of climate. However, one thing I'm really disappointed by is the fact that we don't have heated back seats. That's something that you have to go for like a Platinum Reserve to get, and I wish they had included it here on the Nismo given its price point. Down below, we have 2 USB ports and a 12-volt outlet. If you look over at the door trim's nicely done. No sunshades, but we do have a lot of suede here in the center section, leatherette pad where your arm's going to rest, and also plenty of door storage. Let's go ahead and check out the 3rd row. Now, in order to get back here, they've made it very simple. All you do is grab that lever right there, and that's actually going to tilt the entire seat up and out of the way. I like the fact that it tilts. That does mean that you wouldn't necessarily have to remove a car seat. And let's hop back here into the 3rd row. Now, as far as legroom, what Nissan is saying is about 32 inches of legroom and about 36 inches of headroom. But I have to say, guys, this is one of the best 3rd rows that I've ever gotten in. And I don't take that lightly because I do a lot of 3-row vehicles. And look at how much space I have. I have about 3 inches of additional knee room, even with this seat slid all the way back. We also have room for my feet to slide up underneath of the seat. The thigh support is absolutely incredible. It really feels just about as comfortable as in the 2nd row. There are 3 seats back here, and I also love the fact that we even have that same design here in the 3rd row, so they didn't cheap out on some of the design elements here in the back. We have 2 cup holders. We also have this button right here, which will allow me to further recline my seat to increase my comfort. Really, the only thing that's not fantastic is the headroom is a little bit tight for those of you that are going to be a little taller. As far as how it rates on the 3rd row rating scale, I'm going to say this is absolutely fit for a king. Now, walking up to the cargo area, of course, we do have a hands-free power tailgate, and let's see how much space you're going to have here in the Armada. Now, what we're sitting at is about 20 cubic feet of space behind the 3rd row of seats, 56 cubic feet behind the 2nd row, and 97 cubic feet with all the seats folded. Now, as far as how that compares to its main competition, things like the Tahoe, that is going to be about 20-something cubic feet less space than a Tahoe, so keep that in mind. However, it is bigger than a Toyota Sequoia if that's what you're looking at. And speaking of all those numerous rivals, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've looked at all the large full-size SUVs out there and ranked them in individual categories, things like 3rd row, cargo capacity, interior luxury and technology, powertrain choices, and even value. So you'll definitely want to make an informed buying decision and see the best options in each of those categories at carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, back to the Armada. As far as features, you'll notice over here on the side that we have buttons to fold the 3rd row. I'm going to go ahead and lower the headrest down. And then as you can see, I can easily just press and fold the 3rd row down. I like that. Also, I can easily fold the 2nd row with a single press of the button, and that's going to give me that maximum cargo capacity. And everything is completely flat with the floor. Now, let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. As far as cargo length is concerned, we're looking at 87 inches of length behind Drew's 5'8" seating position. From behind the 2nd row of seats, looking at about 48 inches. And then from behind the third row, 16 inches. As far as the opening, that's really wide. 51 inches wide. That's fantastic. And then as far as the height, that's also fantastic. We're sitting very close to 33 inches as that figure. Now, I do also have buttons back here to lower the air suspension, so I'm going to go ahead and lower the air suspension down as much as possible. Okay, so now that we've got it lowered to the lowest setting, we are looking at a load-in height of about 32 inches, so not half bad. Just be aware you really have a huge bumper area back here that you have to lift over. Now, underneath of the floor, if I can get this carpet mat up, there's a little bit of extra space. You also do have a spare tire, and that's going to be integrated underneath of the bumper. There's also a household outlet. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the new Nissan Armada Nismo. Of course, this is a big piece of this, vehicle is the driving experience. So let's go ahead and get into all the details. We'll be covering a lot, as you can see on the screen right now, as well as discussing real-world fuel economy and getting a sound level reading. But first, let's start with that hard acceleration.
That was taking us to 60 miles an hour with the Nismo Armada. So like we talked about at the very beginning, this does have, some special touches throughout the vehicle, of course, but also with the powertrain. So it has a Nismo tuned 3.5 liter twin turbocharged V6 engine, and what that does is bump your power up quite a bit. We have 460 horsepower on board, and still 516 pound-feet of torque.
It's quick, though.
Yeah.
For a full-size, body-on-frame SUV, these are typically not, what I would call quick, unless you get like an Escalade V or anything like that. Like, most of the time they, feel a little bit big. This, honestly, when you press the accelerator down, that 516 pound-feet of torque just kind of slams you back in the seat. And I do think that the, additional horsepower for the Nismo also makes it feel a little bit faster.
As far as the transmission is concerned, we've got a 9-speed automatic, and it's definitely tuned to be quite aggressive when we're in the sport drive mode. You barely put your foot on the throttle, and it will downshift very willingly to get you up to speed as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and as far as how power is routed to the ground, you do have standard 4-wheel drive here on the Nismo model. That's one of the only variants of the Armada lineup that you do get 4-wheel drive as standard. This and the Pro 4X. Now I'll go ahead and toggle us back into the comfort mode, because this road is very, very rough that we are on right now. And that kind of demonstrates what I want to talk about with ride quality, because this vehicle comes standard with an air suspension, at least here on the Nismo trim, and some of your higher end examples come with the air ride, and that honestly does a fantastic job of making this vehicle have that dual character experience. So, when it's in comfort normal mode like this, it does a great job of soaking up the bumps. It's really one of the best riding full-size SUVs out there, that's for sure. It's a big step above like something like a Toyota Sequoia, in our opinion. And then when you put it in the sport mode, of course, it firms things up. So I definitely really liked that over the past week, is that it does have that dual character. It pretty much rides like your normal Nissan Armada in the normal drive mode, but when you put it in the sport mode, it definitely has a different character to it. And we have the 22-inch wheels on the outside, and even despite that, we do have the very good ride quality. Now, I'm sure not a ton of you guys are all that concerned about fuel economy, but let's go ahead and talk about that. Let's get the EPA numbers out of the way first. So the Nismo is rated at 16, 19, 17 miles per gallon. That is going to be the same as any other four-wheel drive Armada, so not a huge fuel economy penalty or anything like that. I do want to point out, though, that the Nismo requires premium fuel. So part of the reason why you actually have extra horsepower is because of the premium fuel, kind of like the Infiniti QX80. So that is something worth noting. You do have to pay for premium fuel on the Nismo. But what's our real-world experienced fuel economy this week? Like we said, we lived with it. And at the time of us filming, we've driven around 150 miles, and we were sitting at 15.5 miles per gallon. That was in mixed both city and highway driving. So overall, that's pretty close to the EPA estimate. Now, if we're able to drive a little bit more over the weekend when we have this before we have to return this vehicle, we will go ahead and insert in the most accurate, where we use the most tank or more mileage and use more of the tank of gas. But 15.5 is certainly not too shabby. It's pretty close to the EPA estimate. All right, so we are speeding up to 55 miles per hour so we can get things like our sound level reading and see how quiet this Armada is. I'll go ahead and toggle us to fan speed 1. Our massage seats are off, and the rear climate is off as well. So let's go ahead and see how quiet this is. .1 decibels is what we have settled at, so that's a pretty good sound level reading. I don't have to sit here and guess, though. I can go to carconfections.com/sound level readings and see how it compares to all of the competition. Now, seeing how it compares, that's very quiet cabin, actually, as a matter of fact. The Expedition is going to be the reigning champion of the segment, but overall, that's one of the quieter options, and the Nismo is not going to penalize you at all when it comes to more noise entering into the cabin or anything like that. So it's a premium experience. Feels kind of like a QX80 in here.
Now, the design is one thing, but can it back it up with the performance? Well, we made it out to a back road now, and let's kind of throw it around this corner here to see. Yeah, so I think that's a great corner to demonstrate what we've been enjoying this entire week, which is pretty darn good handling. So definitely you can tell that they really focused a lot more on the suspension to make things, more aggressive with this Nismo model. Despite being a huge SUV, when we throw it around a corner, the body roll is really well controlled. You don't have much of it at all. Plus, with the adjustable bolsters on these seats, it really holds your body in place super well. Now, the thing I have a little bit of an objection to is just the steering weight. Even when you're in the sport mode, the steering is still super light and does not have hardly any feel whatsoever. That's despite the fact that it's actually super responsive. So you can see as soon as you go off center, you get an immediate response. It's just that you don't feel super confident when placing this vehicle just due to how light the steering is.
Yeah, but overall, really, both of us and everyone that drove it this week felt like this is probably the best driving, 3-row body-on-frame SUV there is. I mean, not the stiffest competition, arguably, for a good driving body-on-frame 3-row, but I will say this thing really has impressed us, and, just the Platinum Reserve and then the Nismo kind of adds additional on top of that, so it is a very good driving experience, and that today is going to be our slam dunk easily. I think that's really the most enjoyable part about this car is the driving experience, and it definitely drives a lot smaller than it is.
Now, on the airball side of things, with the additional performance, Nissan does take away some features that you would get on other versions with this price point. I think one of the ones that we would miss would be the ventilated seats, and we didn't miss it this week, but I think we would miss it, the long-term ownership.
Yeah, heated back seats as well, and I think the head-up display should be included, especially on the sportier example. But after a week, do we like it better, the same, or worse? Well, I feel like we have a little bit of mixed opinions on the Car Confections team. I personally like this Armada Nismo a lot better, actually, after living with it. I think it doesn't look quite as crazy in person. The pictures make it look absolutely nuts. But I think in person it looks a little bit better, and the driving experience really made me like it better. All right, so let's talk pricing. You can see the full lineup of Armada prices on the screen right now, but the Nismo is actually the most expensive one from the start. We are just a hair under $80,000 before destination. Now, as you can see, we have the Armada Nismo with four-wheel drive, $79,530 is our base price. We also have the optional paint as well as a couple other options. $2,190 is our destination, so all told we're sitting at $83,735. As far as where this vehicle is manufactured, it is manufactured in Japan, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealership negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that down below in our video description, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's talk about resale reliability and the warranty. First up, let's talk about resale value. Nissan as a brand is rated at 50.56% of estimated retained value after 5 years and 60,000 miles, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 16.43%. That is right at the industry average for all vehicle brands. However, it is less than some main competitors such as Toyota or Honda.
The same exact thing can be said about reliability. We have the combined reliability index, and when we take into account the latest data, Nissan is rated exactly at that overall industry average for all vehicle brands.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, our reliability data, or our methodology, we encourage you to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Now, also important in that decision is your warranty, so let's talk about that. 3-year 36,000 mile basic warranty, a 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain warranty, and you do also get 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. And guys, that wraps up our 7-day review of the 2026 Nissan Armada Nismo. If you enjoyed watching this video where we lived with this product, we'd really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and I promise you won't want to miss out. We also do a lot of real-world 7-day reviews where we can really, truly share our impressions after living with it. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.